So I am also the convener of the National Center of Excellence in Carbon Capture and Utilization. So I'll pitch my ideas around CCUS. Dr. Sharma talked about the growth trajectory. We are indeed a growing economy. We are yet to peak our emissions. We see the steel. I work for Tata Steel briefly, and we see that currently the country is possibly manufacturing around 140 million tons of steel. Just by 2030, we target 300 million tons of steel annually. So in every sector, be it fertilizer or power or petroleum refineries or anything, you talk about it, we are on the growth track. What do we do with that? We are actually adding more and more carbon dioxide. And Dr. Kumar was talking about the residence time. Carbon dioxide has a residence time of nearly 100 years in the atmosphere. Water is also a greenhouse gas, but it changes phases that CO2 does not. That is the real challenge what we have to address. And in that regard, the sectoral emissions, we have mapped around 245 large-scale point source of emissions in India, of which 106 are around 1 million ton of emission per year. So these are the huge industries that need to be targeted, and they get affected by the constraints that we are putting on the carbon management. So that's around. So I'll share a bit of success stories. Some 5 years ago, we started talking with NTPC, and we told them that the challenge of carbon capture will come, management will come. So we did the pre-feasibility study, and last year they announced the commissioning, and this year on 15th August they announced the successful run of 20 ton per day CO2 capture plant and conversion to methanol. So this is a very small step, I would say, because we are emitting in orders of gigatons of carbon dioxide. But these small steps will need much more of these to grow and develop further. So what is essentially needed is capturing this carbon dioxide, converting into useful chemicals. Now look at the scale of this problem. Some 3 gigatons of emissions. How much do we want to convert? What kind of product that you want to make that will be taken up by the market? Urea, how much of urea? Or how much of soda ash will be manufactured? So then if you talk about approximately 3 gigatons, 10 years down the line may be around 7 gigatons of annual emissions if we don't do anything. So at that scale, we can only convert few tens to few hundreds of millions of tons of carbon dioxide into any valuable product. Otherwise, the product is not having any demand in the market. That's where we come with the concept of geological carbon sequestration. It's happening around the world. Around the world, there are some 21 large-scale facilities where carbon dioxide is being captured, transported, and dumped deep into the subsurface. You look at the analogy of natural gas and petroleum, which is being extracted from the subsurface currently. That's actually been there for several hundreds of thousands of years to millions of years. In some cases, CBM, billions of years. These gases can securely be placed in the subsurface. So we did, so essentially I was at the IEA in the 2021, just before the lockdown. And we saw the world map with their capacities of sequestration. India was very prominent by absence of that number. So in the first lockdown, we took a lot of data from the National Data Repository and did a lot of calculations, whether it was USGS method or Department of Energy method. We calculated that India has the potential for storing nearly 395 to 614 gigatons of carbon dioxide in the subsurface across different reservoirs, whether it is for enhanced oil and gas recovery or enhanced CBM recovery or deep saline aquifers. We are very, very blessed. Geologically, diversity is huge, onshore and offshore, or the basalt formations. So even if 10% of the calculation that we have done is valid for technical purposes, we can still abate 40 to 60 gigatons of carbon dioxide. The country is emitting currently around 3 gigatons. So you look at the scale problem can be addressed by sequestration. We have done some analysis. Almost 80 to 90% of carbon dioxide abatement can only come if we talk about geological sequestration. In this regard, there are some other success stories also that, so because it's about technology roadmap, I have been fortunate to work on 2 CCS roadmaps so far from the government. One is from TIFAC in 2018, and this year in July, we released the 2030 roadmap for CCUS for upstream oil and gas industry with the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. Because MOPNG or Ministry of Mines, they are the ones owning the subsurface in the country. If they are sensitized and they are developing roadmap, that means that country is changing. The approach towards sequestration is changing, and that's something that I really feel happy to have been participating with. So what we need to do, we need to incentivize the early players. The early mover advantage should go to the companies who are going to deploy that. We have to find out the ways that, whether it is Tax 45Q of the US, we need to have equivalents where we let them do this carbon dioxide capture. The second step is for those facilities which we do not have currently, instead of retrofitting the old ones, the new ones can actually be fitted with such kind of a mechanism that will come in due course. Viability of new technologies was talked about. I'll give you one example. We are capturing carbon dioxide directly from the air. What is the concentration? It's 0.04% or 420 parts per million. Even that technology is feasible. We have developed in the lab. We won the Elon Musk Foundation award last year, and we are setting up 3 ton per day CO2 capture plant at IIT Bombay. The point is that we do not have to just reduce the emissions, but also account for the emissions that have been made. Only then we can come down from 420 to, let's say, 280 or 300 parts per million in years to come. How will that happen? We have to support new technologies. And how can you do that? You support the R&D institutions, CSIR is there, IITs, institutions, universities, anywhere that the challenge can be taken up, and we need to support that. I give the example of direct air capture. $800 per ton when I was a student with Professor Klaus Lackner, their startup, in the US. $800 per ton of CO2 capture 10 years ago, and now it come down to $100 per ton. That is because of accelerated R&D. Finally, sir, I want to say that enhancing the TRLs is very, very important. The technologies are available, but they are not cost effective for India to adopt. We can really come together, do our homework, support the R&D. The timeline of implementation is also just for subsequent sequestration. Any project in the world today, if we start talking, it has taken 5 to 10 years for deployment. So we need to talk early, get into action, and then collaborate with the partners to develop something like that. And finally, because this also talks about oil and gas, so sir has talked about the new way that the oil and gas should look. It has talked about coal bed methane also. So we have to talk across sectors, and whether it is upstream or downstream, and address the problem by possibly by CCUS in all the energy scenarios or portfolios for net zero. We talk about hydrogen, we talk about emission reduction, we talk about solar, renewables, and so on. CCUS will account for nearly 14 to 32% of all the efforts in the portfolio in a net zero scenario, such that we can continue to use oil and gas by 19 to 30% and coal by 5% even in 2017 in India. Thank you so much.